A black stallion stands motionless on a frozen lake, his breath forming clouds in the frigid Montana air. As rescuers approach through knee-deep snow, they discover a truth that will change their lives forever. This extraordinary tale of courage, instinct and sacrifice in the depths of winter reveals how sometimes the greatest acts of love come from those we least expect. The sun had barely crested the jagged peaks of Montana's Blackfoot Valley when Thomas Walker received the urgent call. An isolated wild horse stranded in the middle of Eagle Lake, refusing to move despite the dangerous ice beneath its hooves. As Tom gripped his radio tighter, he couldn't have known that this seemingly routine wildlife response would become one of the most remarkable rescues of his career. At 35, Tom had seen his share of wildlife emergencies during his 8 years as a conservation officer. The Pine Creek Wildlife Station had trained him well, but nothing could have prepared him for what awaited at Eagle Lake that morning. Loading his truck with rescue equipment, he watched his breath crystallize in the bitter January air. The thermometer on his dashboard read -15 degrees, dangerous conditions for any living creature, let alone one trapped on ice. The drive to Eagle Lake seemed longer than usual, each turn revealing more of winter's harsh grip on the landscape. Ancient pines sagged under heavy snow, their branches reaching toward a steel-gray sky that promised more storms to come. Tom's mind raced with possibilities. Wild horses rarely ventured this far from their protected valleys in winter. Something had driven this one to take such a risk. As his truck rounded the final bend, Eagle Lake stretched before him like a vast white plain. The surface, normally a deep blue in summer, now lay frozen under 2 feet of snow. And there in the center stood a sight that made Tom's heart skip. A black stallion, perfectly still, its dark coat a stark contrast against the endless white. Tom grabbed his binoculars, adjusting them against the glare of snow. The horse was young, maybe 2 years old, with a distinctive white star blazing on its forehead. But what caught his attention wasn't the horse's markings, it was its behavior. The stallion wasn't panicking, wasn't struggling. It stood with purpose, head lowered, as if guarding something beneath the ice. Reaching for his radio, Tom called for backup. "This is Walker at Eagle Lake. We've got a situation here. I need Dr. Mitchell and additional support. Something's not right." Within minutes, Sarah Mitchell, the local veterinarian, confirmed she was en route. Tom knew her expertise with large animals would be crucial, especially under these treacherous conditions. While waiting, Tom began assessing the situation. The ice near the shore was thick enough to hold weight. This winter had been particularly brutal, but the center, where the stallion stood, was another matter. Moving closer, he noticed something that made his blood run cold. Hairline cracks spreading like spiderwebs around the horse's hooves. Sarah's truck arrived in a spray of snow, followed by Mike Henderson, Tom's supervisor. The three gathered at the lake's edge, their breath forming clouds in the frigid air as they discussed options. "He's been there at least since dawn," Mike reported, checking his notes from earlier calls. Local photographers spotted him around sunrise, said he hasn't moved an inch. Sarah studied the scene through her own binoculars, her expression growing more concerned. "The way he's positioned, he's protecting something. See how he keeps looking down?" The stallion had indeed maintained its vigilant stance, occasionally pawing at the ice with remarkable gentleness for such a powerful animal. As they prepared their rescue equipment, the sky darkened with approaching snow. Time was running out. They needed to act before the weather deteriorated further, but the horse's strange behavior demanded caution. Tom had learned early in his career that rushing in could make situations worse, especially with wild animals. Carefully, they began their approach. Tom led the way, testing the ice with each step. The surface groaned beneath them, but held. At 50 feet from the stallion, they got their first clear view of what had drawn the horse to this deadly perch. Through the translucent ice, they could make out a dark shape, another horse, trapped beneath the surface. The reality hit them like a physical blow. The black stallion wasn't stranded, he was standing guard over a fallen companion. The other horse, a young mare, lay motionless under the ice, her outline barely visible through the frozen layers. The stallion's refusal to leave suddenly made perfect sense. Tom's throat tightened with emotion. In all his years of wildlife service, he'd never witnessed such devotion from a wild animal. The stallion must have watched his companion fall through thin ice, only to have the surface refreeze, trapping her below. Instead of fleeing to safety, he had chosen to stay, standing vigil despite the bitter cold and danger to himself. The rescue team huddled together, formulating a plan. The ice around the stallion had weakened from his constant presence. One wrong move could send him plunging into the same fate that had claimed his companion. They needed to save him, but the horse's determination to stay presented a unique challenge. Sarah produced a tranquilizer gun from her kit, but Tom raised his hand. "Wait," he said, something in his gut telling him there was a better way. Years of working with wild animals had taught him to trust his instincts. "Let me try something first." Moving forward alone, Tom began speaking in low, soothing tones. The stallion's ears flicked toward him, but the horse held his ground. As Tom drew closer, he could see the ice crystals formed in the animal's mane, evidence of hours spent in the brutal cold. The horse's dedication was costing him dearly. 20 feet away, Tom stopped. The stallion's dark eyes met his, and in that moment, something passed between them, an understanding that transcended the natural barriers between wild and tamed. The horse wasn't just acting on instinct, he was demonstrating loyalty, perhaps even love. Tom slowly uncoiled a rope from his shoulder. "I know why you're here," he said softly, continuing his gentle monologue. "But you can't help her now, and she wouldn't want you to die too." The stallion's ears remained focused on Tom's voice, his breath coming in visible puffs in the frozen air. With practiced movements, Tom prepared a gentle lasso. The horse watched but didn't flee. Somewhere in the distance, thunder rumbled. The approaching storm was getting closer. They were running out of time. The first attempt with the rope failed, the stallion sidestepping with surprising agility on the slick surface. But instead of bolting, he returned to his vigil, as if understanding that leaving meant abandoning his companion forever. Tom's respect for the animal grew with each passing moment. On the third attempt, the rope settled perfectly around the stallion's neck. The horse tensed, but didn't fight. Whether from exhaustion or some deeper understanding, he allowed Tom to slowly, carefully begin leading him off the ice. Each step was agonizing, the surface creaking beneath them. As they neared the shore, the stallion suddenly planted his hooves, turning back toward where his companion lay trapped. His cry of anguish echoed across the frozen lake, a sound that would haunt Tom for years to come. It was a farewell, a final tribute to a bond that even death couldn't sever. The next few hours passed in a blur of activity. The stallion, whom they named Frost for his incredible endurance of the elements, was transported to Pine Creek Wildlife Station. Despite hours in sub-zero temperatures, his only physical ailments were mild frostbite on his legs and exhaustion. But it was his emotional state that concerned them most. Frost refused food initially, standing in his heated stall with his head lowered, mirroring his posture on the lake. Sarah stayed through the night, monitoring his condition, while Tom worked with local authorities to document the incident. As news of Frost's vigil spread, something remarkable began to happen. People from across the region offered support. Native American elders from the nearby reservation visited, speaking of ancient beliefs about the spiritual connections between horses. Local ranchers donated supplies and time. A wildlife photographer who had witnessed the rescue shared his images, touching hearts across the country. Days turned into weeks, and gradually Frost began to heal, not just physically, but emotionally. Tom spent every free moment with him, building trust through patience and understanding. The stallion's intelligence and gentle nature emerged, surprising everyone who worked with him. 2 months after the rescue, they discovered something unexpected. Trail cameras in the Mustang Valley captured images of Frost's herd. The same distinctive markings, the same proud bearing. The mare he had stood vigil for had been his lifelong companion, possibly even his first love. Understanding the depth of his loss made his actions even more poignant. The decision about Frost's future wasn't easy. Wild horses belonged with their herds, but Frost had formed strong bonds with his caregivers, particularly Tom. After much discussion and observation, they chose to let Frost make his own choice. On a clear spring morning, they opened his paddock gate at the edge of Mustang Valley. Frost stepped out cautiously, testing his freedom. Tom stood nearby, his heart heavy but at peace with whatever the stallion would choose. For several long moments, Frost surveyed the valley, his nostrils flaring at the scent of sage and open grass. Then, to everyone's amazement, he turned and walked back to Tom. Today, preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Frost serves as an ambassador for wild horse conservation, helping educate people about the intelligence and emotional capacity of these magnificent creatures. His story has inspired changes in wildlife protection policies and sparked a movement to preserve the natural habitats of wild horses. Tom still works at Pine Creek, but his experience with Frost changed him profoundly. "Sometimes the greatest teachers come with 4 legs instead of 2, he often says. Frost taught me that love and loyalty know no boundaries, not between species, not between wild and tamed. The frozen lake where Frost stood his vigil has become a symbol of devotion. Local guides tell his story to visitors, speaking in hushed tones about the black stallion who refused to abandon his companion. In spring, when the ice melts and wildflowers bloom along the shore, people say they sometimes see a dark horse standing at the water's edge, watching the lake with knowing eyes. This extraordinary tale reminds us that the capacity for love and loyalty exists in all of nature's creatures. If you've been touched by Frost's story, take a moment to share it with others. Subscribe to join us in celebrating these remarkable stories of courage and compassion. Together, we can ensure that tales of extraordinary bonds between humans and animals continue to inspire future generations. Remember, sometimes the most powerful lessons about love and loyalty come from those who cannot speak them in words. Like, share, and join us for more incredible stories that remind us of the extraordinary connections possible between all living beings. Pine Creek Wildlife Station stood as a testament to human dedication in the harsh Montana wilderness. The weathered wooden buildings, reinforced against winter storms, housed some of the most dedicated wildlife conservationists in the state. Among them, Thomas Walker had earned a reputation for his unique approach to animal rescue, though few knew the path that had led him to this remote outpost. Before the sun rose each morning, Tom's routine remained unchanged, regardless of the season. He would wake at 4:30, brew strong coffee in the station's small kitchen, and review incident reports from the night shift. The early hours provided a stillness that allowed him to connect with the wilderness he had sworn to protect. This particular morning carried an unusual weight. The thermometer outside his window had dipped to 20 below zero, and the weather service warned of an approaching storm system that threatened to dump another 2 feet of snow on the already buried landscape. Tom pulled his heavy jacket closer as he stepped onto the station's front porch, his boots crunching in the snow that had fallen overnight. Mike Henderson, Tom's supervisor and mentor of 8 years, joined him with 2 steaming mugs of coffee. The older man's face, weathered by decades of outdoor work, creased with concern as he studied the pre-dawn sky. "Storms coming in faster than they predicted," he said, passing one of the mugs to Tom. "Might want to check the emergency supplies in the outer stations." Tom nodded, grateful for the warmth of the coffee. His thoughts drifted to the network of emergency caches they maintained throughout the territory. Small shelters stocked with basic supplies for both human and animal emergencies. In his years at Pine Creek, he'd learned that preparation often meant the difference between life and death. The relationship between Tom and Mike had grown from simple supervisor and employee to something deeper. Mike had recognized something in the younger man when he'd first arrived at Pine Creek, a natural instinct for understanding wildlife that went beyond traditional training. Under Mike's guidance, Tom had transformed from an eager but inexperienced ranger into one of the station's most valuable assets. As they stood in comfortable silence, watching the first hints of dawn paint the sky in shades of purple and gray, Tom reflected on the journey that had brought him here. His path to wildlife. Conservation hadn't been traditional. Growing up on a small farm in Idaho, he'd spent his youth learning to read the subtle languages of animals, the way they moved, the signals they gave, the trust they offered when treated with respect. A career in wildlife services hadn't been his original plan. After college, he'd worked as a ranch hand, learning the ways of horses and developing the patience that would later serve him so well. It was a chance encounter with an injured eagle that changed his course. The hours he'd spent helping a local wildlife rehabilitator nurse the magnificent bird back to health had awakened something in him, a calling he couldn't ignore. The station's radio crackled to life, interrupting his thoughts. Sarah Mitchell's voice came through, clear despite the static. The local veterinarian was already on her morning rounds, checking on several rehabilitating animals in the stations. Kari, her dedication matched Tom's own, often working through the night when an animal needed extra attention. Sarah's arrival at Pine Creek 3 years ago had brought new energy to the station. Her expertise with large animals and innovative treatment approaches had improved their success rate with wildlife rehabilitation. More than that, she shared Tom's philosophy about animal care, that each creature deserved to be treated with dignity and understanding, regardless of the circumstances. The sun finally crested the mountain peaks, casting long shadows across the snow-covered valley. Tom and Mike moved inside to the station's main office, where the daily briefing would soon begin. The walls were covered with maps marking wildlife, territories, migration patterns, and areas of concern. Each pin and notation told a story of the delicate balance they worked to maintain. The morning briefing gathered the station's full team: wildlife officers, rehabilitation specialists, and support staff. They discussed ongoing cases, potential problems, and the day's priorities. Tom listened intently as each person reported, knowing that success in their work depended on this careful coordination of efforts. Tom's attention was drawn to a particular map on the wall, one that tracked the local wild horse populations. The Blackfoot Valley had been home to Mustangs. For generations, their presence woven into the very fabric of the landscape. Recent development pressures had begun to impact their traditional ranges, making the station's work even more crucial. As the briefing concluded, Sarah pulled Tom aside to discuss a young wolf they'd been treating. The animal's recovery was progressing well, but something in her expression suggested there was more on her mind. "Have you been up to Eagle Lake lately?" she asked, her voice casual but her eyes serious. "The ice is getting dangerous with these temperature fluctuations." Tom understood her concern. Eagle Lake had always been a critical water source for wildlife, but the changing weather patterns had made it increasingly unpredictable. They'd lost animals there before, despite their best efforts to keep wildlife away from the weakened ice. The morning progressed with its usual tasks, checking equipment, updating records, responding to calls from local residents. Tom found himself drawn to the rehabilitation barn, where they housed injured animals during recovery. Each occupant had a story, a reason for being there, and Tom knew them all. In one stall, a young elk recuperated from a run-in with a barbed wire fence. Next door, a pair of orphaned mountain lion cubs played under careful supervision. Their mother had been killed by a car 2 weeks ago, and the station had become their temporary home. Tom checked each animal, making notes on their progress and adjusting care plans as needed. The rehabilitation work was only part of their mission. Pine Creek served as a hub for wildlife research, education, and conservation efforts throughout the region. They worked closely with local schools, bringing students in to learn about wildlife and the importance of preservation. Tom particularly enjoyed these educational sessions, seeing the wonder in young eyes as they connected with the natural world. Around mid-morning, Tom began his daily patrol. He loaded his truck with emergency supplies, medical kits, rescue equipment, food, or any animals he might need to assist. Experience had taught him to be prepared for anything. The territory he covered was vast, encompassing mountains, valleys, and forests, each with its own unique challenges. As he drove the familiar routes, Tom monitored radio channels for any signs of trouble. The approaching storm had everyone on high alert. Wildlife behavior often changed before severe weather, and they needed to be ready for unusual situations. His thoughts returned to the wild horses, knowing they would be seeking shelter as the storm approached. The truck's heater worked overtime, against the bitter cold, as Tom checked each emergency cache along his route. At each stop, he noted supplies that needed replenishing and checked the structural integrity of the shelters. These small outposts had saved countless lives over the years, providing refuge for both wildlife officers and animals in desperate situations. Near noon, Tom parked at a high point overlooking Eagle Lake. The frozen surface stretched out below him, a vast white expanse that concealed both beauty and danger. Through his binoculars, he scanned the shoreline for any signs of wildlife in distress. The ice near the center looked thin in places, its surface marred by stress patterns that concerned him. The radio crackled again, Mike requesting a status update. Tom reported his position and observations, noting the deteriorating weather conditions. The first snowflakes had begun to fall, small and sharp in the frigid air. The storm was arriving ahead of schedule, just as Mike had predicted. As Tom prepared to continue his patrol, movement at the lake's edge caught his attention. A small herd of elk had emerged from the tree line, making their way cautiously toward the water. He watched as they tested the ice with their hooves before backing away, their natural instincts warning them of the danger. The scene reminded him of his first winter at Pine Creek, when he'd helped rescue a young moose that had fallen through thin ice. The experience had taught him valuable lessons about ice rescue techniques, but more importantly, about the unpredictable nature of their work. Every day brought new challenges, new opportunities to make a difference. Back at the station that afternoon, Tom joined Sarah in the medical building for their weekly review of rehabilitation cases. They discussed treatment plans, release schedules, and the challenges posed by the approaching storm. Their conversation drifted to broader topics: the changing patterns they'd observed in wildlife behavior, the increasing pressure on natural habitats, their hopes for preservation efforts. The medical building itself told a story of dedication and progress. What had started as a basic first aid station had grown into a fully equipped wildlife medical facility. Each piece of equipment, each improvement, represented countless hours of fundraising and community support. The local community understood the importance of their work, often rallying to provide resources when needed. As the day began to wind down, Tom completed his final rounds. The storm had intensified, reducing visibility to a few hundred feet. He checked on each animal one last time, ensuring they were comfortable and secure for the night. In the rehabilitation barn, he spent extra time with the mountain lion cubs, knowing the storm might make them anxious. The evening shift arrived, and Tom briefed them on the day's events and any special concerns. The handover was thorough. In their line of work, missing details could have serious consequences. He emphasized the need for extra vigilance during the storm, particularly around Eagle Lake and other high-risk areas. Before heading to his cabin, Tom stood for a moment in the doorway of the main building, watching the snow fall. The wind had picked up, driving the flakes horizontally past. The security lights. In the distance, a wolf's howl carried through the storm, a reminder of the wild hearts that called this harsh landscape home. His small cabin, just a short walk from the main station, offered a warm refuge from the elements. Photos on the walls chronicled his years at Pine Creek, successful rescues, released animals, colleagues who had become family. Each image represented a small victory in their ongoing mission to protect and preserve the wildlife that made this region so special. As Tom prepared for sleep, his mind wandered to the challenges that lay ahead. The storm would likely bring new emergencies, new opportunities to put their training and dedication to the test. But he felt ready, grounded in the knowledge that he was exactly where he needed to be, doing work that truly mattered. The wind howled outside his window, but Tom found comfort in the sound. It was part of the natural rhythm of life in this remote corner of Montana, a reminder of the powerful forces that shaped the landscape and the creatures that called it home. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new stories, and new chances to make a difference in the lives of the animals he had sworn to protect. His last thoughts before drifting off were of the wild horses that roamed the valley. In all his years of wildlife work, they had always held a special place in his heart. Their freedom, their grace, their incredible will to survive. These were the qualities that had drawn him to this work in the first place. As sleep overtook him, Tom remained unaware that the next day would test everything he had learned in ways he could never have imagined. Dawn broke reluctantly over Eagle Lake, the sun struggling to pierce through dense clouds that promised more snow. The storm had passed, leaving behind a transformed landscape where every branch and boulder wore a thick white mantle. The temperature had plummeted further overnight, turning the air sharp enough to steal breath. Jennifer Cooper, a wildlife photographer who had spent the last decade documenting Montana's wild horses, discovered the stallion's presence on Eagle Lake. She had ventured out before sunrise, hoping to capture images of elk moving through the fresh snow. Instead, her telephoto lens revealed something that made her heart stop. A lone black horse standing motionless in the middle of the frozen lake. Through her viewfinder, Jennifer observed details that prompted her immediate call to Pine Creek Wildlife Station. The horse wasn't merely standing, it maintained an unusual posture, head lowered, occasionally pawing at the ice with deliberate gentleness. More concerning was its location, far from the safety of shore where the ice was most treacherous. The emergency call reached Tom Walker just as he finished his morning coffee. Jennifer's voice carried a tension that made him sit up straighter. "There's something wrong," she explained, describing the horse's bizarre behavior. "It's not trapped, Tom. It's choosing to stay there. I've never seen anything like it." Tom grabbed his emergency gear, mind already racing through possible scenarios. The lake's condition had been deteriorating for days, with temperature fluctuations creating unstable ice conditions. As he loaded his truck, Sarah Mitchell pulled up to the station, responding to the same call. Her veterinary expertise might prove crucial if they needed to sedate or treat an injured animal. The drive to Eagle Lake took them through winding mountain roads still treacherous from the recent storm. Tom and Sarah discussed possible approaches, but both knew that until they assessed the situation firsthand, Any plan would be tentative. Wildlife rescue required flexibility, the ability to adapt to unexpected circumstances. As they approached the lake, the sun finally broke through the clouds, creating a momentary rainbow effect as light scattered through ice crystals in the air. The scene before them was simultaneously beautiful and alarming. The black stallion stood like a statue against the white expanse, its dark coat making it appear as if someone had dropped ink onto blank paper. Jennifer met them at the designated observation point, her camera still trained on the horse. "He's been here at least 3 hours," she reported, showing them the timestamps on her earliest photos. "Hasn't moved more than a few feet in any direction." Her images revealed something else, a pattern of behavior that suggested purpose rather than panic. Through high-powered binoculars, Tom studied the stallion's body language. Despite the bitter cold, the horse showed no signs of distress. Its ears remained forward, alert but not anxious. Most striking was its gaze, consistently focused downward at something beneath the ice. Tom had worked with enough animals to know when they were trying to communicate something important. Sarah's sharp intake of breath drew his attention. "Tom, look at the ice pattern around him." The morning light had revealed what darkness had hidden, a complex network of cracks spreading outward from where the horse stood. But rather than fresh breaks, these appeared to have refrozen, suggesting the stallion had been there much longer than their initial estimates. The radio crackled with Mike Henderson's voice announcing his arrival with additional rescue equipment. As the senior conservation officer pulled up in his truck, he brought news that added another layer to the mystery. "We've got reports of a missing mare from the Thunder Basin herd," he said, consulting his notes. "Young female disappeared during the storm 2 days ago." The pieces began falling into place in Tom's mind. The stallion's position, its focused attention, the refrozen cracks, all pointing to a tragedy they hadn't yet confirmed. Using specialized equipment, they began testing the ice thickness at various points, creating a safe approach path while trying to determine what lay beneath the surface. Jennifer's camera captured the moment of revelation. As the morning sun reached its highest point, it penetrated the ice at just the right angle to illuminate what the stallion had been guarding. There, frozen beneath the surface, was the dark shape of another horse. The missing mare lay preserved in her icy tomb, while her companion maintained his heartbreaking vigil above. The discovery hit the rescue team hard. Each member had seen their share of wildlife casualties, but this situation was different. The stallion's dedication spoke of a bond that transcended basic instinct. It raised questions about the emotional capacity of these magnificent creatures that many had underestimated. Tom approached the ice edge carefully, testing each step. The stallion's ears tracked his movement, but the horse made no attempt to flee. Instead, it lifted its head slightly, acknowledging Tom's presence while maintaining its position. The behavior suggested not just intelligence, but a desperate plea for help that touched something deep in Tom's soul. Sarah began preparing tranquilization equipment as a precaution, but Tom raised his hand to wait. Years of experience had taught him to trust his instincts in these situations. There was something about the stallion's demeanor that suggested force might not be necessary, that perhaps, on some level, the horse understood they were there to help. The next hour unfolded with agonizing slowness as the rescue team worked to establish a safe perimeter around the scene. They needed to reach the stallion before exhaustion or the weakening ice claimed another victim, but rushing could prove fatal for both horse and rescuers. The sound of ice shifting beneath their feet created a constant reminder of the danger. Jennifer continued documenting the rescue attempt, her camera capturing the intensity of the moment. Her photographs would later become powerful testimony to the emotional lives of wild animals, challenging long-held assumptions about their capacity for grief. and loyalty. Each frame revealed the stallion's unwavering dedication to its fallen companion. The morning sun had done little to warm the air, which remained bitter enough to freeze breath into crystalline clouds. The stallion's coat was rimed with frost, evidence of the long hours it had spent exposed to the elements. Yet still, it stood, steady and determined, as if time had frozen along with the lake surface. Mike coordinated with local authorities to ensure they had additional support if needed. The story had begun spreading through nearby communities, drawing concerned onlookers who were kept at a safe distance. Among them were members of the local Native American tribe, who spoke in hushed tones about ancient beliefs regarding the spiritual connection between horses. As Tom inched closer to the stallion, he maintained a steady stream of soft conversation. The words mattered less than the tone, a gentle reassurance that carried across the ice. The horse's ears remained focused on his voice, suggesting a willingness to trust that gave them hope for a peaceful resolution. Sarah positioned herself strategically, tranquilizer gun ready but hidden from the stallion's view. They had agreed it would be a last resort. Sedating an animal on ice carried its own risks, but they needed to be prepared for every contingency. The mare, frozen beneath the surface, served as a grim reminder of what was at stake. The temperature continued to drop as clouds gathered again, threatening more snow. The rescue team knew their window of opportunity was shrinking. The ice, though thick enough to support weight now, could become dangerously brittle if temperatures plunged further. They needed to act before conditions deteriorated completely. Tom had closed half the distance to the stallion when he noticed something remarkable. The horse had begun making soft, nickering sounds, not the distressed calls they typically heard in rescue situations, but something more nuanced. It was almost as if the animal was trying to communicate directly with him. The next moments would be crucial. Tom removed his heavy outer gloves, knowing he needed maximum dexterity for what he planned to attempt. The cold bit into his exposed skin immediately, but he focused on maintaining the connection he'd established with the stallion. One wrong move could shatter the fragile trust they'd built. Behind him, he could hear Sarah and Mike conferring, in low voices about the ice conditions. The cracks around the stallion had begun to expand as the temperature fluctuated, creating a spiderweb pattern that threatened to give way. Time was running out, but rushing now could prove disastrous. The stallion's breath came in visible puffs, its sides heaving slightly from the effort of standing motionless for so long. Yet its gaze remained clear and focused, alternating between Tom's approach and the tragic scene beneath the ice. The intelligence in those dark eyes spoke of an understanding that went beyond mere animal instinct. Tom began uncoiling a rescue rope, his movements slow and deliberate. The stallion watched but made no move to retreat. Instead, it shifted slightly, adjusting its stance to face him more directly. The motion caused several sharp, cracking sounds from the ice, making everyone hold their breath, but the surface held. Jennifer's camera captured the moment Tom first made physical contact with the stallion. His hand, red from cold, gently touched the horse's frost-covered neck. The animal trembled but didn't pull away. Instead, it leaned slightly into the touch, as if drawing strength from the human connection. The process of securing the rescue rope took several tense minutes. Tom worked with practiced efficiency, explaining each movement to the horse in low, soothing tones. The stallion's cooperation seemed almost supernatural, as if it understood that accepting help was its only option for honoring its fallen companion. As the rescue team prepared to guide the stallion to safety, the horse made one final gesture that left an indelible mark on everyone present. It lowered its head to the ice one last time, touching its muzzle to the frozen surface above where the mare lay. The moment was so profound that even the most seasoned rescue workers felt tears freezing on their cheeks. The journey across the ice was painstakingly slow. Each step had to be carefully planned and executed to avoid putting too much stress on any one area. The stallion moved with remarkable patience, following Tom's guidance as if they'd worked together for years rather than minutes. When they finally reached solid ground, the stallion's legs buckled slightly, the toll of its long vigil becoming apparent. Sarah moved in quickly to begin a medical assessment, while Tom maintained his position at the horse's head, providing a constant, reassuring presence. The bond forged in those crucial moments on the ice seemed to hold firm. As the team worked to warm and treat the stallion, Jennifer reviewed the photographs she'd taken. Each image told part of a story that would soon capture hearts across the country, a tale of loyalty, loss, and the remarkable capacity for love that existed in these wild creatures. The final shot of the stallion's farewell gesture to its companion would become an iconic symbol of animal consciousness. The day's events had transformed everyone involved. They had witnessed something that defied simple explanation, a demonstration of emotional depth that challenged conventional understanding of wild animals. The stallion's vigil would be remembered not just as a rescue, but as a testament to the complex emotional lives of creatures many had dismissed as operating purely on instinct. As the sun began its descent, casting long shadows across the frozen lake, the rescue team prepared to transport the stallion to Pine Creek for further care. The horse, though exhausted, remained calm, as if understanding that these humans were now its best chance for survival. The trust it showed was a precious gift, one they were determined to honor. The story of the stallion's vigil had only begun. In the days and weeks that followed, its demonstration of loyalty would spark discussions about animal consciousness, inspire changes in wildlife protection policies, and remind humans of the profound connections possible between all living beings. But in that moment, as darkness settled over Eagle Lake, what mattered most was that one brave heart had been saved, carrying with it the memory of a love strong enough to withstand the bitter cold of a Montana winter. The rescue operation at Eagle Lake transformed into something far more complex than anyone had anticipated. As Tom Walker secured his safety line and prepared to venture further onto the ice, the first rays of mid-morning sun revealed new challenges. The frozen surface had developed a maze of stress fractures, spreading outward like a spider's web from where the black stallion maintained its vigil. Sarah Mitchell's voice crackled over the radio, her tone carrying both professional calm and underlying urgency. From her position at the medical station on shore, she monitored the ice conditions through specialized equipment. Each reading showed the temperature rising, threatening to further weaken the already compromised surface. They had perhaps an hour before the situation became critical. Mike Henderson coordinated the ground team, positioning rescue equipment at strategic points around the lake. Years of experience had taught them that in wildlife rescue, preparation often meant the difference between success and tragedy. The sight of the young mare trapped beneath the ice served as a stark reminder of the stakes they faced. Tom's first steps onto the ice produced sharp cracking sounds that echoed across the lake. The stallion's ears twitched at each noise, but remarkably, the horse remained steady. Its dark eyes tracked Tom's movement with an intelligence that seemed to transcend typical wild animal behavior. There was something in that gaze that spoke of desperation and trust intertwined. The approach required patience beyond measure. Each foot placement needed careful consideration. Each shift in weight could spell disaster. Tom maintained a constant stream of soft conversation, not so much for the words, but for the reassuring tone that carried across the ice. The stallion responded to his voice, its ears perpetually focused forward, showing signs of understanding that amazed even the veteran rescue team. Jennifer Cooper's camera captured every delicate moment of the advance. Her telephoto lens revealed details that the naked eye missed. The frost crystals forming in the stallion's mane, the subtle tremors running through its muscles, the way its breath created small clouds that hung in the frigid air. Each image would later become part of a powerful testament to animal consciousness and devotion. The ice groaned ominously as Tom reached the halfway point. Behind him, the safety team adjusted their positions, ready to react if the surface gave way. The temperature continued its gradual rise, and patches of slick ice developed where the morning sun struck the surface. Every element seemed to conspire against them, yet they pressed forward, driven by the urgency of their mission. Sarah's medical team had expanded their preparation area, setting up heating equipment and emergency treatment supplies. They knew that even if they succeeded in reaching the stallion, the real challenge would begin once they attempted to move it. The horse had stood essentially motionless for hours in sub-zero temperatures. The physical toll would be severe. Local tribal elders had gathered at a respectful distance, their presence adding a spiritual dimension to the rescue effort. They spoke quietly among themselves, sharing ancient stories of horses as spiritual beings, of their capacity for emotions that humans had forgotten how to recognize. Their wisdom seemed particularly relevant as they watched the stallion's unwavering dedication to its fallen companion. Tom's progress slowed as he entered the most dangerous zone. The ice here was thinner, compromised by the stallion's long vigil. Each step required testing, probing for solid footing, while maintaining the delicate connection he'd established with the horse. The animal watched his approach with an almost supernatural patience, as if understanding that this human represented its only chance for survival. The rescue rope felt heavy in Tom's cold, numbed hands as he prepared for the crucial moment of first contact. He had worked with countless wild horses over the years, but this situation demanded a level of trust that typically took weeks to establish. The stallion's behavior defied conventional wisdom about wild animal responses to human intervention. A sudden shift in the ice caused everyone to freeze. The crack that appeared between Tom and the stallion seemed to hang suspended in time, a stark reminder of the precipice on which they balanced. The horse remained remarkably still, its only movement the rapid rise and fall of its sides as it breathed. Tom took advantage of the moment to study the animal more closely, noting signs of exhaustion that had been invisible from shore. The next few minutes would determine everything. Tom began slowly uncoiling the rescue rope, his movements deliberately smooth and unthreatening. The stallion watched but made no move to retreat. Instead, it shifted slightly, adjusting its stance. To face him more directly, the motion caused several sharp cracking sounds from the ice, making everyone hold their breath, but the surface held. Sarah's voice came through the radio again, updating them on the ice conditions. The temperature had risen another degree, and the structural integrity of the surface was deteriorating faster than anticipated. They needed to act soon, but rushing now could prove catastrophic. The balance between urgency and caution had never felt more precarious. Tom's first physical contact with the stallion came almost naturally, as if the horse had decided to meet him halfway. His bare hand touched the frost-covered neck, feeling the warmth of life beneath the icy coat. The animal trembled, but didn't pull away. Instead, it leaned slightly into the touch, seeking connection in a way that touched something deep in Tom's soul. The process of securing the rescue rope required a delicate dance of trust and technique. Tom worked with practiced efficiency, explaining each movement to the horse in low, soothing tones. The stallion's cooperation seemed almost supernatural, as if it understood that accepting help was its only option for honoring its fallen companion. Mike's team on shore began adjusting their positions, preparing for the most dangerous part of the rescue, guiding both horse and handler back to safety. The ice had continued to deteriorate, creating a treacherous path that would require perfect coordination between all team members. One misstep could send both Tom and the stallion into the freezing water. The journey back proved even more challenging than the approach. The stallion, though willing, showed signs of physical distress. Its legs trembled with exhaustion, and its movements became increasingly uncertain. Tom maintained constant contact, both physical and verbal, guiding the animal step by careful step across the fragile surface. Jennifer's camera continued recording every moment, her lens capturing the intense concentration on Tom's face. The trust in the stallion's eyes, the way they moved as one across the dangerous terrain. These images would later become powerful, symbols of the connection possible between humans and wild animals, challenging preconceptions about the emotional capacity of these magnificent creatures. The tribal elders began a soft chant as horse and handler neared the shore, their ancient words carrying across the frozen lake like a blessing. The stallion's ears pricked at the sound, and its steps seemed to grow more confident. Later, many would speak of the spiritual energy that seemed to envelope the lake during those crucial moments. 20 feet from shore, disaster nearly struck. A section of ice gave way with a sharp crack, and the stallion's back leg plunged into the freezing water. Time seemed to stop as everyone watched, helpless to intervene. But Tom's quick thinking and the horse's remarkable trust prevailed. Together, they managed to redistribute their weight and pull back from the brink of tragedy. The final approach to solid ground felt like an eternity. Each step brought new challenges as the ice, weakened by their passage, threatened to collapse. The rescue team stood ready with emergency equipment, prepared for any eventuality. Tension in the air was palpable as horse and handler covered the last crucial yards. When they finally reached the shore, the stallion's legs buckled slightly, the toll of its long vigil becoming apparent. Sarah moved in quickly to begin a medical assessment, while Tom maintained his position at the horse's head, providing a constant, reassuring presence. The bond forged in those crucial moments on the ice seemed to hold firm. The medical examination revealed the true extent of the stallion's ordeal. Despite its remarkable stoicism, the horse had suffered significant exposure. Its body temperature was dangerously low, and its muscles showed signs of severe strain from maintaining its position for so long. Yet through it all, the animal remained calm, accepting treatment with a dignity that amazed even the most experienced handlers. As Sarah worked to stabilize the stallion's condition, Tom took a moment to process what they had just accomplished. The rescue itself had been technically challenging, but it was the horse's behavior that truly set this experience apart. Its willingness to trust, its apparent understanding of their intentions, suggested levels of emotional and cognitive capability that challenged conventional wisdom about wild animals. The tribal elders approached once the immediate medical needs had been addressed. They spoke of signs and portents, of the deep spiritual significance of what they had witnessed. The stallion's vigil over its fallen companion, they said, was a reminder of the sacred bonds that existed in nature, bonds that modern humans had too often forgotten or ignored. Jennifer reviewed her photographs, each image telling part of a story that would soon capture hearts across the country. The final shot, taken just as they reached safety, showed the stallion looking back across the ice one last time, as if saying a final farewell to its companion. The emotion captured in that moment would become a powerful symbol of animal consciousness and devotion. The decision to transport the stallion to Pine Creek Wildlife Station came with its own challenges. The horse, though exhausted, maintained a remarkable composure during the loading process. Tom stayed with it throughout, maintaining the connection they had established on the ice. The trust the animal showed was a precious gift, one they were determined to honor. As the transport vehicle pulled away from Eagle Lake, the sun had begun, its descent casting long shadows across the frozen surface. The rescue team remained behind, securing the site and beginning the process of documenting the event. The mare's body, still visible beneath the ice, would need to be recovered once conditions permitted. Her story, too, would be honored. The journey to Pine Creek gave them time to reflect on the day's events. The stallion's behavior had challenged everything they thought they knew about wild horses. Its capacity for grief, its ability to trust in a moment of crisis, its apparent understanding of human intentions, all suggested depths of emotional intelligence that demanded further study and consideration. News of the rescue spread quickly. Through the local community and beyond, the story touched something universal in people's hearts, a recognition of the profound connections possible between all living beings. The stallion's vigil became a symbol of loyalty and love that transcended species boundaries, challenging humans to reconsider their relationships with the natural world. At Pine Creek, a team of specialists waited to receive their unusual patient. The facility had been prepared with everything needed to treat the physical effects of prolonged exposure and exhaustion. But everyone involved understood that the stallion's emotional well-being would require just as much attention as its physical recovery. The day's events had transformed everyone involved. They had witnessed something that defied simple explanation. A demonstration of emotional depth that challenged conventional understanding of wild animals. The stallion's vigil would be remembered not just as a rescue, but as a testament to the complex emotional lives of creatures many had dismissed as operating purely on instinct. As darkness settled over the wildlife station, Tom made one final check on his remarkable patient. The stallion stood quietly in its heated stall, its dark eyes still holding that same intelligent gaze that had first captured his attention on the ice. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but for now they had accomplished something extraordinary. Not just saving a life, but witnessing and honoring a depth of love that knew no bounds. Pine Creek Wildlife Station hummed with quiet intensity as darkness settled over the Montana wilderness. Inside the medical barn, state-of-the-art monitoring equipment tracked every change in the black stallion's condition. Sarah Mitchell methodically documented vital signs, while Tom Walker prepared specialized warming equipment designed for large animal rehabilitation. The first hours proved crucial for the stallion's recovery. Its core temperature, dangerously low from extended exposure to sub-zero conditions, required careful monitoring. Too rapid warming could cause shock, while too slow might fail to prevent lasting damage. Sarah had converted the largest treatment stall into an emergency care unit, equipped with thermal blankets and infrared heating panels. Outside, the night. Air crystallized with plummeting temperatures, making the warmth of the medical barn feel like a sanctuary. The soft whir of heating equipment mixed with the gentle sounds of the stallion's breathing, creating an almost meditative atmosphere. Tom maintained his vigil, speaking softly to the horse as each hour brought new challenges and small victories. Native American elders from the nearby reservation had brought traditional medicines, herbs known for their healing properties. They worked alongside the medical team, their ancient knowledge complementing modern veterinary science. The collaboration spoke to a deeper understanding that healing involved more than just physical recovery. Through the night, the stallion's condition slowly stabilized. Its breathing became more regular, and the violent shivering that had marked the first hours gradually subsided. The horse's remarkable trust remained unchanged, accepting treatment with a patience that defied its wild nature. Each small improvement felt like a shared triumph between animal and caregivers. Dawn brought new energy to Pine Creek as the day shift arrived. The story of the lake rescue had spread, drawing wildlife specialists eager to observe this extraordinary case. The stallion's behavior challenged conventional understanding of wild horse psychology, suggesting emotional depths that many had previously dismissed. Emma Richardson, a leading equine behaviorist, arrived from the University of Montana to document the case. Her presence added a scholarly dimension to the recovery effort as she meticulously recorded every interaction between the stallion and its caregivers. The horse's continued acceptance of human contact, she noted, was unprecedented for a truly wild Mustang. Morning rounds revealed encouraging progress. The stallion's vital signs had improved significantly, though Sarah remained concerned about potential complications from prolonged exposure. Of particular worry were its legs, which had stood motionless in freezing conditions for an extended period. Circulation issues could lead to serious complications if not carefully managed. The medical barn's routine adjusted to accommodate their unusual patient. Regular treatments included therapeutic massage to stimulate circulation, careful application of warming compresses, and a specialized diet designed to replenish depleted energy reserves. Through it all, the stallion demonstrated a level of cooperation that amazed even veteran handlers. Tom spent every free moment with the horse, developing a bond that grew stronger with each passing hour. He noticed subtle changes in the stallion's behavior. The way its ears would track his movement, how it would shift position to maintain visual contact, the soft nickering sounds it made when he approached. These weren't the actions of a wild animal merely tolerating human presence. By midday, Sarah felt confident enough to attempt getting the stallion on its feet. The process would be delicate. Too much exertion could set back recovery, but movement was essential for preventing muscle atrophy and circulation problems. The medical team prepared support slings and emergency equipment ready for any complications. The first attempt revealed both strength and vulnerability. The stallion struggled initially, its muscles stiff from cold and inactivity. Yet, its determination remained evident in every effort. Tom stayed at its head, providing constant encouragement and support. After several tense minutes, the horse managed to stand, though unsteadily. Emma documented every moment of the rehabilitation process, her notes filling pages with observations about the stallion's responses and behaviors. Of particular interest was the horse's continued gaze toward the barn doors, as if maintaining some connection to the lake where its companion remained. The behavior suggested a depth of emotional memory that challenged scientific understanding. The tribal elders who visited brought stories of horses as spiritual beings, capable of forming bonds that transcended physical existence. They spoke of ancient beliefs about animals as teachers, showing humans truths about love and loyalty that modern life had obscured. Their words seemed to resonate with something in the stallion's quiet dignity. Afternoon brought new challenges as the medical team worked to establish a sustainable care routine. The stallion required regular medication to prevent infection and manage pain, yet showed none of the resistance typical of wild animals. Instead, it seemed to understand the purpose behind each treatment, cooperating in ways that made the staff question everything they knew about wild horse behavior. Sarah's expertise proved invaluable as she adjusted treatment protocols based on the stallion's responses. Her experience with wild animals had taught her to read subtle signs of distress or improvement, allowing her to fine-tune care in time. The horse's recovery became a delicate balance of medical science and intuitive understanding. Local media began gathering outside Pine Creek, drawn by reports of the extraordinary rescue and recovery. The story touched something in people's hearts, a recognition of the profound emotional capabilities of animals that humans often overlooked. Jennifer Cooper's photographs from the lake rescue had already gone viral, sparking discussions about animal consciousness and emotional intelligence. As evening approached, the medical team prepared for another critical night. The stallion had shown remarkable progress, but recovery would be a long process. Each improvement brought new challenges, requiring constant vigilance and adjustment of care protocols. The dedication of the Pine Creek staff matched their patients' own determination to survive. Mike Henderson arrived with updates from Eagle Lake, where recovery teams had begun the solemn task of documenting the scene. The ice had continued to weaken, making retrieval of the mare's body impossible for now. His report included something unexpected. Tracks in the snow suggested the stallion had tried multiple times to find a way through the ice before taking up its final position. The information added new layers to their understanding of the event. The stallion hadn't simply stood guard, it had actively sought ways to help its companion before choosing its vigil. The intelligence and emotional complexity demonstrated in these actions forced everyone involved to reevaluate their perspectives on wild animal consciousness. Evening treatments brought a moment of breakthrough. As Tom applied therapeutic massage to the stallion's legs, the horse responded with gentle nudges and soft vocalizations. These weren't signs of distress, but apparent attempts at communication. The behavior caught Emma's attention immediately, as it suggested levels of trust and interaction rarely seen in recently wild animals. Sarah's evening examination revealed steady improvement in the stallion's condition. Circulation had returned strongly to its extremities, and its temperature remained stable. Most encouraging was its increased interest in food and water, essential signs of recovery. Yet concerns remained about potential delayed effects from the prolonged exposure. The night shift arrived as darkness settled over Pine Creek, bringing fresh energy to the recovery effort. The medical barn maintained its atmosphere of focused care, each staff member contributing to the delicate balance of healing. The stallion's quiet strength continued to inspire everyone involved in its care. Tom's final check before leaving for the night revealed something remarkable. The stallion had begun showing interest in its surroundings, watching the movement of other animals in nearby stalls with alert curiosity. This engagement with its environment marked an important step in recovery, suggesting the horse was moving beyond mere survival to active participation in life. Late evening brought a visit from Dr. James Morrison, a leading veterinary researcher specializing in equine psychology. His initial observations added scientific weight to what the care team had sensed. The stallion's behavior suggested cognitive and emotional capabilities that challenged current understanding of wild horse intelligence. The medical barn settled into its nighttime routine, the quiet broken only by the soft sounds of breathing and monitoring equipment. Night staff moved efficiently through their tasks, maintaining the delicate balance of care that had marked this extraordinary case from the beginning. The stallion's presence had transformed the facility into something beyond a mere medical center. Under the Montana stars, Pine Creek Wildlife Station continued its mission of healing. The stallion's story had already begun touching lives far beyond the medical barn's walls, challenging assumptions about the emotional capacity of wild animals. Each hour of recovery added new chapters to a tale that would inspire reconsideration of humanity's relationship with the natural world. The night team maintained careful records of every change in the stallion's condition. These observations would prove valuable not just for immediate care, but for future understanding of wild horse rehabilitation. The unique circumstances of the case provided unprecedented opportunities for studying the intersection of physical and emotional healing in these magnificent creatures. As midnight approached, the stallion finally drifted into peaceful sleep, its first real rest since the ordeal began. The sight brought quiet satisfaction to the night staff, who understood the significance of this simple act. Rest meant healing, and healing meant hope for full recovery. The medical barn's quiet atmosphere allowed for reflection on the day's events. Each person involved in the stallion's care had witnessed something that defied easy explanation. A wild animal choosing trust over fear, cooperation over resistance. These observations would challenge conventional wisdom about wildlife rehabilitation for years to come. Outside, the Montana winter continued its cold reign, but within the medical barn, warmth and healing prevailed. The stallion's presence had created a unique environment where modern medicine, ancient wisdom, and natural instinct worked in harmony. Each breath, each small improvement added to a growing understanding of the remarkable capabilities of these magnificent creatures. The night staff documented every detail of the stallion's rest patterns, noting the absence of distress behaviors typical in newly captured wild horses. Instead, the animal displayed a level of comfort that suggested an understanding of its situation and the help being offered. This conscious cooperation would become a crucial part of ongoing research into wild horse intelligence. As the first hints of dawn appeared on the horizon, the medical barn prepared for another day of healing. The stallion's story had only begun, but already it had transformed understanding of wild animal consciousness. Each moment of recovery added to a growing testament of the profound emotional and intellectual capabilities of these remarkable beings. The early morning brought renewal of purpose to everyone involved in the stallion's care. They had witnessed something extraordinary, not just a dramatic rescue, but an ongoing demonstration of trust and resilience that challenged their understanding of wild animals. The journey ahead would require continued dedication, but the rewards promised to extend far beyond one horse's recovery. Sunrise painted the Montana sky in watercolor shades of pink and gold as Pine Creek Wildlife Station stirred to life. The medical barn's atmosphere held a sense of cautious optimism as Sarah Mitchell reviewed overnight charts documenting the stallion's vital signs. Each measurement told a story of gradual improvement, though challenges still lay ahead. The morning brought an unexpected visitor to Pine Creek. Dr. Elena Martinez, a renowned expert in equine trauma recovery, had flown in from California after hearing about the extraordinary case. Her arrival added new perspectives to the recovery effort, particularly regarding the psychological aspects of rehabilitation for wild horses who had experienced severe trauma. Elena's first observation of the stallion left her momentarily speechless. The horse's demeanor defied conventional patterns seen in rescued wild animals. Instead of showing typical stress responses, the stallion displayed a remarkable awareness of its surroundings and an unusual willingness to engage with human caregivers. These behaviors suggested cognitive processing that challenged existing research parameters. Morning treatments revealed encouraging progress in the stallion's physical recovery. Its muscle tone had improved significantly, and circulation issues that had worried Sarah initially showed signs of resolving. Most remarkable was the horse's continued cooperation with medical procedures, displaying a level of trust that Elena noted was unprecedented in her decades of experience. Tom Walker arrived early, carrying fresh hay and specialized feed supplements recommended by the veterinary team. The stallion's reaction to his presence had evolved into something extraordinary. Instead of merely tolerating human contact, the horse actively sought interaction, nickering softly when Tom entered the stall. This behavior caught Elena's attention immediately, prompting her to begin detailed documentation of their interactions. The medical team initiated new physical therapy protocols designed to prevent muscle atrophy and maintain joint flexibility. These exercises would normally require sedation for a wild horse, yet the stallion participated willingly, seeming to understand the purpose behind each movement. Sarah and Elena exchanged meaningful glances, recognizing the significance of this unprecedented cooperation. Mid-morning brought another breakthrough. The stallion took its first steps without support equipment, moving with increasing confidence around the medical stall. Though still showing signs of stiffness, its determination to regain mobility was evident in every careful movement. The medical team watched in amazed silence as the horse demonstrated a clear understanding of its own recovery process. Jennifer Cooper had returned to document the rehabilitation process, her camera capturing moments that would further challenge conventional understanding of wild horse intelligence. Through her lens, she recorded subtle interactions between the stallion and its caregivers that revealed complex emotional and social awareness rarely acknowledged in wild animals. The local Native American elders continued their regular visits, bringing traditional medicines and sharing ancient wisdom about horse spirits. They spoke of how horses carried messages between the physical and spiritual worlds, and how some special animals chose to bridge the gap between wild and domestic realms. Their words seemed to resonate with the stallion's extraordinary behavior. Emma Richardson's ongoing behavioral study had begun yielding fascinating insights. She noted how the stallion would track the movement of medical equipment before it was used, suggesting an ability to anticipate and understand human intentions. This level of cognitive processing challenged existing theories about wild horse intelligence and adaptability. By early afternoon, Dr. Martinez had developed a comprehensive psychological assessment of the stallion. Her report detailed behaviors that indicated not just intelligence, but emotional processing far beyond what current research acknowledged in wild horses. The trauma of losing its companion had not created typical stress responses, but rather seemed to have opened new pathways for human-animal connection. The rehabilitation program expanded to include controlled exposure to environmental enrichment. The medical team introduced various objects and situations designed to stimulate both physical and mental recovery. The stallion's responses showed remarkable problem-solving abilities and an eagerness to engage with new challenges that defied its wild status. Sarah's afternoon examination brought more positive news. The horse's vital signs had stabilized at normal levels, and its appetite had returned strongly. Bloodwork results showed improving markers across all critical values, yet it was the stallion's continued emotional engagement with its caregivers that most impressed the veterinarian. Mike Henderson arrived with updates from the wider wildlife community. News of the stallion's unique case had spread through professional channels, drawing attention from research institutions and conservation organizations worldwide. The implications for wild horse rehabilitation and human-animal interaction studies were potentially groundbreaking. As the day progressed, the medical team implemented new elements in the recovery plan: gentle exercise sessions in the indoor rehabilitation arena allowed the stallion to rebuild strength while maintaining the close connection with its caregivers. The horse's willingness to work within human parameters while retaining its wild dignity created an unprecedented model for wildlife rehabilitation. Elena conducted detailed observations of the stallion's social interactions, noting its responses to different staff members and situations. The horse showed clear preference patterns and remarkable ability to adapt its behavior based on individual humans' approaches. These observations suggested levels of social intelligence previously undocumented in wild horses. The afternoon brought a special moment that captured the essence of the stallion's extraordinary journey. During a rest period between therapy sessions, the horse initiated a gentle grooming interaction with Tom, using its muzzle to return the careful attention it had received. Elena immediately recognized the significance. This was not learned behavior, but a conscious choice to engage in social bonding. Jennifer's photographs of this interaction would later become powerful testimony to the emotional capabilities of wild animals. Each image captured subtle nuances of expression and body language that spoke of trust, intelligence, and conscious choice. The stallion's story was becoming more than a tale of survival. It was evolving into evidence of unprecedented human-animal understanding. As evening approached, the medical team prepared for night rounds. The stallion's progress had exceeded all expectations, yet everyone understood that full recovery, both physical and emotional, would require continued dedication. The bond forming between the horse and its caregivers represented something profound in the field of wildlife rehabilitation. Dr. Martinez spent time reviewing footage of the stallion's lake rescue, analyzing its behavior for insights into its psychological state. She noted how the horse's apparent understanding of human assistance during the crisis provided context for its current cooperative behavior. This suggested cognitive processing that challenged existing paradigms of wild animal psychology. The rehabilitation barn settled into its evening routine, but the atmosphere remained charged with the energy of discovery. Each day brought new insights into the capabilities of these magnificent creatures. The stallion's journey had become a window into possibilities that traditional wildlife medicine had never fully explored. Tom's evening check revealed another step forward in the horse's recovery. The stallion had begun showing interest in other animals housed in the rehabilitation facility, displaying social awareness that suggested healing extended beyond physical recovery. This engagement with its environment marked important progress in its overall rehabilitation. Emma's research notes for the day filled several pages with observations about the stallion's cognitive processes. She documented its problem-solving approaches, social interactions, and emotional responses, building a case for intelligence and awareness that would challenge conventional scientific understanding of wild horses. The night team arrived as darkness fell over Pine Creek, bringing fresh energy to the recovery effort. The stallion's case had inspired unprecedented collaboration between various disciplines of veterinary and behavioral science. Each person involved contributed to an expanding understanding of wild animal consciousness and capability. Evening treatments proceeded with the same remarkable cooperation that had characterized the stallion's behavior throughout its recovery. The horse's willing participation in medical procedures continued to amaze even the most experienced staff members. This conscious collaboration between wild animal and human caregivers suggested possibilities that would influence wildlife rehabilitation protocols for years to come. Sarah's final check of the day included a moment of quiet observation. The stallion's progress wasn't just about physical healing. It represented an evolution in understanding how wild animals could choose to interact with humans while maintaining their essential nature. This delicate balance would become crucial in developing future rehabilitation approaches. As night settled over Pine Creek Wildlife Station, the medical barn maintained its atmosphere of focused care and discovery. The stallion's presence had transformed the facility into a living laboratory where traditional boundaries between wild and domestic, instinct and intelligence were being redefined through each interaction. The late hours brought time for reflection. Among the night staff, they had witnessed something extraordinary, not just the recovery of a wild animal, but the emergence of new understanding about the capabilities of these magnificent creatures. The stallion's journey had opened doors to possibilities that would influence wildlife medicine and human-animal relationships for generations to come. Under the Montana stars, Pine Creek Wildlife Station continued its mission of healing and discovery. The stallion's story had already begun challenging conventional wisdom about wild animal consciousness and rehabilitation. Each day brought new insights into the profound capabilities of these remarkable beings, suggesting that the boundaries of human-animal understanding were far more fluid than previously believed. Morning mist clung to the Montana valleys as Pine Creek Wildlife Station awakened to a new phase in an extraordinary journey. The rehabilitation barn had become more than a medical facility. It now served as the setting for a remarkable story of trust and understanding between species. The black stallion's presence had transformed not only the facility, but the perspectives of everyone involved in its care. Dr. Elena Martinez began her day reviewing overnight observations that revealed intriguing patterns in the stallion's behavior. The horse had developed distinct responses to different staff members, showing complex social recognition that went beyond simple conditioning. Most notable was its deepening connection with Tom Walker, a relationship that challenged conventional understanding of wild horse psychology. The morning's physical therapy session demonstrated unprecedented levels of cooperation. The stallion no longer simply tolerated treatment, but actively participated, anticipating movements and responding to subtle cues from its caregivers. Sarah Mitchell noted how the horse would adjust its position to facilitate examination, showing an understanding of medical procedures that seemed impossible for a wild animal. Emma Richardson's research had expanded to include detailed analysis of the stallion's vocalizations. She documented a growing vocabulary of sounds the horse used to communicate with humans, each carrying distinct meaning and context. This development suggested cognitive capabilities that exceeded current scientific understanding of equine intelligence. Today marked an important milestone in the rehabilitation process. The medical team had planned the stallion's first supervised visit to the outdoor exercise area, a crucial step in both physical and psychological recovery. The morning sun cast long shadows across the paddock as staff prepared for this significant transition. Jennifer Cooper positioned herself strategically, camera ready to document this important moment. Through her lens, she captured the subtle play of emotions across the stallion's features as it first glimpsed the open space. The horse's reaction would provide valuable insights into its psychological state and readiness for expanded rehabilitation. The stallion's first steps into the outdoor enclosure revealed something remarkable. Rather than displaying the nervous energy typical of confined wild horses, it moved with measured confidence, regularly checking back with Tom for reassurance. This behavior demonstrated a level of trust and emotional security that Dr. Martinez immediately noted in her observations. Native American elders who had gathered to witness the moment spoke in hushed tones about the spiritual significance of the horse's journey. They saw in its behavior signs of ancient connections between humans and horses, bonds that transcended traditional boundaries between wild and domestic. Their wisdom added depth to the scientific observations being recorded. As morning progressed, the stallion began exploring its new environment with increasing curiosity. Each movement revealed improving strength and coordination, yet it was the horse's psychological engagement that most impressed the observation team. It showed particular interest in other horses housed at the facility, suggesting a desire for social connection that hadn't been apparent earlier. Elena's documentation noted how the stallion would periodically pause in its exploration to gaze toward the distant mountains, perhaps in the direction of Eagle Lake. These moments of reflection sparked discussions about emotional memory in horses and their capacity for processing loss. The behavior suggested a complexity of feeling that challenged traditional views of animal consciousness. Sarah's medical assessment during this outdoor session revealed continuing physical improvement. The horse's muscle tone had strengthened significantly, and its movement patterns showed increasing fluidity. Yet it was the stallion's emotional well-being that most encouraged the veteran veterinarian. Its willingness to engage with new experiences, while maintaining strong human connections, indicated healthy psychological adaptation. Mid-morning brought an unexpected development that captured everyone's attention. The stallion initiated a playful interaction with Tom, demonstrating behaviors typically reserved for equine social bonds. This spontaneous display of trust and affection provided powerful evidence of the horse's capacity for forming meaningful connections across species boundaries. Dr. Martinez spent considerable time analyzing this interaction, noting the sophisticated social awareness it demonstrated. The stallion showed clear understanding of appropriate pressure and movement, adjusting its considerable strength to accommodate human fragility. This level of conscious control and empathy suggested emotional intelligence far beyond current scientific documentation. The outdoor session also revealed the stallion's remarkable problem-solving abilities. When presented with various enrichment activities designed to test cognitive function, the horse demonstrated creative approaches that surprised even experienced observers. Its solutions often involved collaboration with human caregivers, showing an understanding of cooperative behavior previously undocumented in wild horses. Emma's research notes detailed how the stallion would observe and learn from other horses in the facility, adapting their behaviors to its own situations. This social learning ability, combined with its willingness to engage with humans, suggested cognitive flexibility that challenged existing paradigms of wild horse intelligence. Jennifer's photographs captured subtle moments of connection between the stallion and its human caregivers. Each image revealed layers of communication and understanding that transcended traditional barriers between wild and domestic animals. These visual records would later become powerful evidence in discussions about animal consciousness and emotional capability. As the day progressed, the medical team introduced new elements to the rehabilitation program. The stallion's responses to various stimuli and challenges provided valuable data for understanding wild horse psychology and adaptation. Each interaction built upon the foundation of trust that had been established, creating opportunities for deeper understanding. The afternoon brought moments of quiet reflection as the stallion rested between activity sessions. Its behavior during these periods revealed sophisticated environmental awareness and social consideration. The horse would position itself to maintain visual contact with its primary caregivers while remaining receptive to approach by other staff members. Dr. Martinez's observations focused on the stallion's emotional regulation capabilities. Unlike typical wild horses in captivity, it showed remarkable ability to process and adapt to new situations without displaying stress behaviors. This emotional intelligence suggested possibilities for revolutionary approaches to wildlife rehabilitation. Sarah's evening examination revealed another layer of the stallion's extraordinary journey. Physical healing had progressed beyond expectations, but it was the horse's psychological resilience that truly amazed the medical team. Its ability to maintain emotional equilibrium while adapting to captivity challenged fundamental assumptions about wild animal behavior. The day's activities had drawn attention from the wider scientific community. Researchers from various institutions had begun requesting access to study the stallion's case, recognizing its potential impact on understanding animal consciousness and rehabilitation protocols. The implications for wildlife medicine and conservation were profound. As evening approached, the stallion demonstrated yet another remarkable behavior. It began showing protective instincts toward younger or more vulnerable animals in the facility, suggesting a capacity for empathy that extended beyond its own species. This behavior particularly interested Dr. Martinez, who saw it as evidence of sophisticated emotional processing. The rehabilitation barn settled into its nighttime routine, but the atmosphere remained charged with the energy of discovery. Each day brought new insights into the capabilities of these magnificent creatures, challenging preconceptions and opening new avenues for research and understanding. Tom's final check of the evening revealed the depth of connection that had formed between human and horse. The stallion's response to his presence showed clear recognition and trust, while maintaining the dignity and strength that marked its wild nature. This balance between adaptation and authenticity formed the core of its remarkable story. Under The Montana Stars Pine Creek Wildlife Station continued its mission of healing and discovery. The stallion's journey had become more than a rehabilitation case. It represented a breakthrough in understanding the profound capabilities of wild animals and their potential for meaningful connection with humans. The night team maintained careful observation of the stallion's behavior, noting how it had begun to integrate its wild instincts with learned social behaviors. This adaptation suggested possibilities for wildlife rehabilitation that preserved essential nature while fostering healing connections. As darkness settled over the facility, the stallion's presence continued to inspire new perspectives on animal consciousness and capability. Its journey had opened doors to understanding that would influence wildlife medicine and human-animal relationships for generations to come. The evening brought quiet moments of connection that spoke to the heart of this extraordinary story. In the peaceful atmosphere of the rehabilitation barn, boundaries between wild and domestic, instinct and intelligence, continued to blur and reform in ways that would challenge scientific understanding for years to come. The day's events had added new chapters to an unfolding story of trust, resilience, and connection. The stallion's journey represented more than physical recovery. It demonstrated the profound possibilities that existed when humans opened themselves to deeper understanding of the animal world. Under the vast Montana sky, Pine Creek Wildlife Station stood as a testament to the extraordinary capabilities of wild animals and the humans dedicated to their care. The stallion's presence had catalyzed a transformation in understanding that would ripple through the fields of wildlife medicine and animal consciousness studies for generations to come. Spring whispered its approach to the Montana wilderness as Pine Creek Wildlife Station entered a crucial phase in the black stallion's rehabilitation. The morning air carried hints of thaw, bringing both promise and challenge to the dedicated team working with their extraordinary patient. Dr. Elena Martinez arrived early, her attention drawn to unexpected developments in the stallion's behavior. The breakthrough came during the pre-dawn hours when security footage captured the stallion engaging in complex social interactions with other rehabilitating horses. The night staff observed behaviors that suggested not just communication, but active leadership qualities emerging in their wild patient. The stallion had begun mediating conflicts between other horses, displaying sophisticated understanding of herd dynamics despite its time in isolation. Sarah Mitchell's morning assessment revealed physical progress that exceeded all projections. The stallion's muscle tone had developed remarkably, while its movement patterns showed increasing refinement. However, this improvement brought new challenges. The horse's growing strength demanded adjustments to handling protocols, testing the boundaries of trust established over weeks of rehabilitation. Emma Richardson documented an intriguing pattern in the stallion's cognitive development. The horse demonstrated unprecedented problem-solving abilities, often finding creative solutions to enrichment challenges meant for much simpler tasks. Most remarkably, it began teaching these solutions to other horses in the facility, showing a capacity for knowledge transfer never before documented in wild equines. The morning's physical therapy session introduced advanced exercises designed to challenge both body and mind. Under Tom Walker's guidance, the stallion navigated complex obstacle courses that required careful coordination and trust. Its responses showed not just physical capability, but strategic thinking, often improving upon the intended solutions with more efficient approaches. Dr. Martinez focused particularly on the stallion's emotional resilience during these new challenges. Unlike typical wild horses, it showed remarkable ability to process frustration and adapt to difficulty without reverting to stress behaviors. This emotional regulation suggested psychological development that challenged existing theories of wild animal rehabilitation. Mid-morning brought unexpected visitors to Pine Creek. Representatives from major wildlife conservation organizations arrived to observe the stallion's progress, drawn by reports of its extraordinary rehabilitation. The horse's response to this increased attention provided new insights into its psychological adaptation, maintaining composure while demonstrating awareness of unfamiliar presences. Jennifer Cooper's camera captured subtle moments that spoke volumes about the stallion's development. Through her lens, she documented instances of the horse anticipating needs, responding to unspoken cues, and engaging in complex social exchanges. These images would later contribute to groundbreaking discussions about animal consciousness and emotional intelligence. The afternoon introduced a significant test of the stallion's progress. The medical team had designed a series of evaluations to assess its readiness for expanded rehabilitation. These challenges would push the boundaries of both physical capability and psychological adaptation, requiring sophisticated problem-solving and emotional regulation. Native American elders, who had supported the rehabilitation process, shared ancient wisdom about horse spirits and their role in bridging worlds. Their perspectives gained new relevance as the stallion demonstrated behaviors that aligned with traditional knowledge about animal consciousness and human-animal connections. The convergence of ancient understanding and modern observation created powerful insights into the rehabilitation process. Sarah's medical observations noted interesting patterns in the stallion's physical development. While its strength had returned fully, the horse showed remarkable control over its power, adjusting its movements with conscious precision when interacting with humans or smaller animals. This demonstration of bodily awareness suggested cognitive capabilities previously undocumented in wild horses. The day's most significant breakthrough came during an advanced training session. The stallion began spontaneously incorporating elements from different exercises, creating novel solutions to complex problems. This creative synthesis of learned behaviors indicated levels of cognitive processing that challenged conventional understanding of equine intelligence. Dr. Martinez spent considerable time analyzing the stallion's social interactions with both humans and other horses. Its behavior showed sophisticated understanding of different social contexts, adapting its communication style appropriately for each situation. This social intelligence suggested possibilities for revolutionary approaches to wild horse rehabilitation. As afternoon progressed, the stallion's responses to various challenges revealed new aspects of its remarkable recovery. It showed particular aptitude for cooperative problem-solving, often engaging human handlers in collaborative efforts to overcome obstacles. This willingness to work in partnership while maintaining its wild nature represented a unique balance. In wildlife rehabilitation, Emma's research documented fascinating developments in the stallion's communication patterns. The horse had developed a complex vocabulary of gestures and vocalizations, often combining different signals to convey specific meanings. This sophisticated communication suggested cognitive capabilities that exceeded current scientific understanding of equine intelligence. The rehabilitation team introduced new environmental enrichment activities designed to test the stallion's adaptive capabilities. Its responses demonstrated not just problem-solving ability, but creative thinking, often discovering novel approaches that surprised even experienced handlers. These innovations suggested cognitive flexibility previously unrecognized in wild horses. Jennifer's photographs captured moments of profound connection between the stallion and its caregivers. Each image revealed layers of understanding and trust that transcended traditional boundaries between wild and domestic animals. These visual records would later become powerful evidence in discussions about animal consciousness and emotional capability. Late afternoon brought moments of quiet observation as researchers documented the stallion's social behaviors. The horse showed remarkable ability to switch between different social contexts, maintaining appropriate boundaries while engaging meaningfully with both humans and other animals. This social adaptability challenged existing paradigms of wild horse psychology. Dr. Martinez's evening assessment focused on the stallion's emotional development. Unlike typical rehabilitation cases, it showed sophisticated ability to process complex situations and regulate its responses. This emotional intelligence suggested possibilities for revolutionary approaches to wildlife rehabilitation and conservation. The day's activities had drawn attention from the international scientific community. Researchers from various institutions recognized the potential impact of the stallion's case on understanding animal consciousness and rehabilitation protocols. The implications for wildlife medicine and conservation extended far beyond traditional boundaries. As evening approached, the stallion demonstrated yet another remarkable capability. It began showing anticipatory behaviors, preparing for routine procedures before they were initiated. This cognitive awareness suggested levels of understanding that challenged fundamental assumptions about wild animal intelligence. The rehabilitation barn settled into its nighttime routine, but the atmosphere remained charged with the energy of discovery. Each day brought new insights into the capabilities of these magnificent creatures, challenging preconceptions and opening new avenues for research and understanding. Tom's final check revealed the continuing evolution of the bond between human and horse. The stallion's response to his presence showed clear recognition and trust, while maintaining the dignity and strength that marked its wild nature. This balance between adaptation and authenticity formed the core of its remarkable story. Under the Montana Stars, Pine Creek Wildlife Station continued its mission of healing and discovery. The stallion's journey had become more than a rehabilitation case. It represented a breakthrough in understanding the profound capabilities of wild animals and their potential for meaningful connection with humans. The night team maintained careful observation of the stallion's behavior, noting how it had begun to integrate its wild instincts with learned social behaviors. This adaptation suggested possibilities for wildlife rehabilitation that preserved essential nature while fostering healing connections. As darkness settled over the facility, the stallion's presence continued to inspire new perspectives on animal consciousness and capability. Its journey had opened doors to understanding that would influence wildlife medicine and human-animal relationships for generations to come. The evening brought quiet moments of connection that spoke to the heart of this extraordinary story. In the peaceful atmosphere of the rehabilitation barn, boundaries between wild and domestic, instinct and intelligence continued to blur and reform in ways that would challenge scientific understanding for years to come. A golden Montana sunrise illuminated an unprecedented scene at Pine Creek Wildlife Station. The black stallion stood alert in the outdoor rehabilitation area, its attention fixed on distant mountains with an intensity that caught Dr. Elena Martinez's experienced eye. Something had changed in the horse's demeanor, a shift subtle yet profound enough to draw the entire medical team's attention. The morning's revelation began with Mike Henderson's arrival, bringing news that would reshape their understanding of the stallion's story. Trail cameras positioned throughout the Blackfoot Valley had captured footage of a wild horse herd moving through areas unusually close to Eagle Lake. Analysis of the images revealed markings matching known members of the stallion's original family group. Sarah Mitchell's morning assessment took on new significance as they processed this information. The stallion's recent behaviors, its increased restlessness, its focused attention on distant horizons, suddenly gained context. The horse had been responding to something they couldn't perceive, perhaps sounds or scents carried on spring winds that spoke of family and freedom. Emma Richardson's behavioral observations over the past week revealed patterns previously overlooked. The stallion had begun displaying increased vocalizations during dawn and dusk hours, times when wild herds typically communicated across valleys. These calls carried distinctive tonal qualities that suggested long-distance communication rather than simple stress responses. Tom Walker's arrival prompted a remarkable demonstration of the stallion's intelligence. The horse initiated a series of behaviors that seemed designed to communicate something specific, alternating between gesturing toward the mountains and engaging directly with its human caregivers. This complex attempt at cross-species communication left even experienced handlers astounded. Dr. Martinez focused intently on documenting these new developments. The stallion's attempts to convey information challenged fundamental assumptions about wild horse cognition. Its behaviors suggested not just basic communication, but sophisticated effort to bridge the gap between human and equine understanding. Jennifer Cooper's camera captured a powerful sequence of interactions as the morning progressed. Through her lens, she recorded subtle changes in the stallion's body language, moments of apparent frustration when its messages went unrecognized, and breakthrough instances of successful communication with its caregivers. The rehabilitation team gathered to analyze mounting evidence of the stallion's extraordinary awareness. Security footage revealed the horse had begun orienting itself toward specific mountain passes during rest periods, suggesting it maintained detailed mental mapping of its territory despite months in rehabilitation. Mid-morning brought another significant breakthrough. During routine exercise, the stallion suddenly paused, its attention locked on a distant sound imperceptible to human ears. Moments later, faint whinnies carried across the valley, confirming the presence of wild horses in the area. The stallion's response demonstrated not just recognition, but complex emotional processing. Native American elders who had supported the rehabilitation process shared insights that gained new relevance. They spoke of horses as beings who moved between worlds, carrying ancient knowledge of landscapes and relationships. The stallion's behavior aligned remarkably with these traditional understandings of equine consciousness. Sarah's medical observations took on new dimensions as they considered the implications of these developments. The horse's physical recovery had progressed beyond all expectations, but its psychological state now commanded primary attention. The presence of its herd in the region introduced variables that would significantly impact rehabilitation decisions. The afternoon brought moments of profound realization as the team reviewed documented patterns in the stallion's behavior. Signs they had attributed to standard rehabilitation. Progress revealed themselves as indicators of the horse maintaining connection with its wild family. This understanding fundamentally shifted their perspective on the rehabilitation process. Dr. Martinez spent considerable time analyzing the stallion's responses to distant herd movements. Its behavior suggested not just awareness but active engagement with its wild family, maintaining social bonds across physical distance. This capacity for emotional connection across space challenged existing theories about wild horse social structures. Emma's research notes detailed fascinating correlations between the stallion's behavior patterns and known wild herd movements. The horse appeared to anticipate its family's migration patterns, displaying increased activity during times that aligned with traditional herd movements through the valley. The rehabilitation team introduced new monitoring protocols designed to better understand these connections. Each observation added layers to their understanding of the stallion's extraordinary capacity for maintaining social bonds while adapting to life in rehabilitation. This balance challenged conventional approaches to wildlife recovery. Jennifer's photographs captured moments of the stallion's evident internal struggle between its growing bonds with human caregivers and its pull toward wild freedom. These images would later contribute to important discussions about the complexity of wildlife rehabilitation and the ethical considerations involved. Late afternoon brought another significant revelation. The stallion began displaying behaviors that mimicked herd leadership roles, suggesting it had held an important social position within its family group. This understanding added crucial context to its demonstrated intelligence and social capabilities. Dr. Martinez's evening assessment focused on the implications of these discoveries for wildlife rehabilitation practices. The stallion's case suggested need for radical reconsideration of how humans approach the recovery of socially complex wild animals. Traditional methods failed to account for the sophistication of their social and emotional needs. The day's developments drew intense interest from wildlife conservation experts worldwide. The stallion's demonstrated capacity for maintaining complex social connections while in rehabilitation suggested possibilities for revolutionary approaches to wildlife recovery and reintegration. As evening approached, the stallion's behavior revealed even deeper layers of understanding. It began alternating its attention between human caregivers and distant mountains in patterns that suggested conscious effort to bridge these two worlds. This behavioral sophistication challenged fundamental assumptions about wild animal consciousness. The rehabilitation barn settled into its nighttime routine, but the atmosphere hummed with new awareness. Each observation of the stallion's behavior now carried added significance as the team recognized the complexity of its social and emotional engagement with both human and wild worlds. Tom's final check of the evening revealed subtle shifts in the stallion's interaction patterns. The horse maintained its strong connection with human caregivers while demonstrating growing awareness of its wild family's presence. This balance represented unprecedented complexity in wildlife rehabilitation cases. Under the Montana stars, Pine Creek Wildlife Station continued its mission with renewed perspective. The stallion's case had evolved beyond physical recovery to reveal profound insights into the capabilities of wild animals and their capacity for maintaining complex social bonds across traditional boundaries. The night team maintained careful documentation of the stallion's behavior, noting how it responded to distant sounds and movements that spoke of its wild family. These observations contributed to growing understanding of the sophisticated ways wild animals maintain social connections despite physical separation. As darkness settled over the facility, the stallion's story continued to challenge conventional wisdom about wildlife rehabilitation. Its demonstrated ability to maintain meaningful connections with both human caregivers and wild family suggested possibilities that would influence wildlife medicine and conservation practices for years to come. The evening brought quiet moments that highlighted the extraordinary nature of their discoveries. In the peaceful atmosphere of the rehabilitation barn, traditional boundaries between wild and domestic instinct and intelligence continued to blur in ways that would revolutionize understanding of animal consciousness. The day's revelations had transformed their approach to wildlife rehabilitation. The stallion's story represented not just physical recovery, but demonstration of sophisticated social and emotional capabilities that demanded reconsideration of human relationships with wild animals. Under the vast Montana sky, Pine Creek Wildlife Station stood as witness to an unfolding revolution in wildlife medicine and animal consciousness studies. The stallion's journey had opened doors to understanding that would influence generations of conservation and rehabilitation efforts to come. Dawn painted the Montana sky in shades of lavender and gold as Pine Creek Wildlife Station faced its most challenging moment yet. Dr. Elena Martinez arrived to find Tom Walker already at the rehabilitation paddock, watching the black stallion with a mixture of pride and concern. The morning air carried the weight of decisions that would challenge everything they had learned about wildlife rehabilitation. Spring had fully awakened in the Blackfoot Valley, bringing with it the sound of wild horse herds moving through ancient migration corridors. The stallion's response to these distant calls had grown more pronounced each day, yet its connection to the rehabilitation team remained unwavering. This complexity presented an unprecedented challenge in wildlife medicine. Sarah Mitchell's morning assessment revealed perfect health in their extraordinary patient. The stallion had achieved physical recovery beyond their most optimistic projections, its strength and vitality fully restored. Yet, this success brought them face to face with questions that transcended traditional rehabilitation protocols. The time had come to confront the ultimate challenge in wildlife medicine, determining the right path forward for an animal that had formed profound bonds with both wild and human worlds. Emma Richardson's latest behavioral observations documented increasing complexity in the stallion's social responses. The horse demonstrated sophisticated awareness of both its wild family's movements and its relationships within the rehabilitation facility. This dual consciousness challenged conventional wisdom about wildlife rehabilitation and raised profound questions about the nature of animal intelligence. The morning brought Mike Henderson with updated tracking data on the wild herds moving through the valley. Satellite imagery and ground reports confirmed that the stallion's original family group had established a pattern of movement that kept them within range of Pine Creek. Their presence added urgency to the decisions facing the rehabilitation team. Dr. Martinez focused intensely on documenting the stallion's behavioral patterns as they weighed their options. The horse displayed unprecedented awareness of its situation, alternating its attention between distant mountains and human caregivers, in ways that suggested conscious understanding of the choice it faced. This level of cognitive processing challenged fundamental assumptions about wild animal consciousness. Jennifer Cooper's camera captured subtle moments that spoke volumes about the stallion's internal struggle. Through her lens, she recorded instances of the horse engaging deeply with its human caregivers while maintaining vigilant awareness of its wild family's presence. These images would later contribute to groundbreaking discussions about animal consciousness and emotional complexity. The rehabilitation team gathered to discuss options that would honor both the stallion's remarkable recovery and its wild nature. Traditional protocols offered little guidance for situations where an animal demonstrated such sophisticated ability to maintain meaningful connections across traditional boundaries of wild and domestic existence. Late morning brought a visit from Native American elders whose wisdom had supported the rehabilitation process from its beginning. They spoke of ancient understanding about horses as beings capable of choosing their own paths, of the importance of respecting their ability to move between worlds. Their perspectives added crucial dimension to the medical team's deliberations. Sarah's observations took on new significance as they considered various approaches. The stallion's physical capabilities had fully returned, but its psychological well-being now presented complex considerations. Any decision about its future needed to account for the sophisticated social and emotional bonds it had developed during rehabilitation. Dr. Martinez spent considerable time analyzing the stallion's responses to both human interaction and distant herd movements. Its behavior suggested not just awareness, but active engagement with both worlds, maintaining meaningful connections that defied simple categorization. This complexity demanded innovative approaches to wildlife rehabilitation. Emma's research notes detailed fascinating patterns in the stallion's decision-making processes. The horse showed remarkable ability to engage with multiple social contexts, switching between different modes of interaction while maintaining authentic connection in each. This adaptability challenged existing theories about wild animal psychology. The rehabilitation team introduced carefully designed choice situations to better understand the stallion's preferences. Each interaction revealed sophisticated awareness of the options available, suggesting levels of cognitive processing that exceeded current understanding of equine intelligence. Jennifer's photographs captured moments of profound connection between the stallion and its various social bonds. These images revealed layers of emotional complexity that would later influence discussions about wildlife rehabilitation and the ethical considerations involved in making decisions for recovered animals. Mid-afternoon brought another significant observation period as the team documented the stallion's responses to distant herd movements. Its behavior demonstrated not just awareness, but sophisticated understanding of its situation, suggesting capability for conscious choice that challenged traditional approaches to wildlife release decisions. Dr. Martinez's assessment focused on the unprecedented nature of their situation. The stallion's case suggested need for revolutionary approaches to wildlife rehabilitation that acknowledged animals' capacity for maintaining meaningful connections. Across traditional boundaries of wild and domestic existence, the day's developments drew intense interest from wildlife conservation experts worldwide. The stallions demonstrated ability to engage meaningfully with both human and wild worlds, suggested possibilities for new approaches to wildlife recovery and reintegration that honored animals' sophisticated social capabilities. As evening approached, the stallion's behavior revealed even deeper layers of complexity. It began displaying patterns that suggested conscious effort to communicate its own preferences, challenging fundamental assumptions about wildlife rehabilitation decisions. The rehabilitation barn settled into its nighttime routine, but the atmosphere hummed with anticipation of crucial decisions ahead. Each observation of the stallion's behavior added weight to the unprecedented challenge they faced in determining its future path. Tom's final check of the evening revealed subtle shifts in the stallion's interaction patterns. The horse maintained strong connections with its human caregivers, while demonstrating growing awareness of its wild family's presence. This balance represented unprecedented complexity in wildlife rehabilitation cases. Under the Montana stars, Pine Creek Wildlife Station continued its mission with renewed awareness of the profound challenges involved in wildlife rehabilitation. The stallion's case had evolved beyond physical recovery to raise fundamental questions about animal consciousness and the nature of wildness itself. The night team maintained careful documentation of the stallion's behavior, noting how it navigated between different social bonds. These observations contributed to growing understanding of the sophisticated ways animals maintain meaningful connections across traditional boundaries. As darkness settled over the facility, the stallion's story continued to challenge conventional wisdom about wildlife rehabilitation. Its demonstrated ability to maintain authentic connections with both human caregivers and wild family suggested possibilities that would influence wildlife medicine and conservation practices for years to come. The evening brought quiet moments that highlighted the extraordinary nature of their situation. In the peaceful atmosphere of the rehabilitation barn, traditional boundaries between wild and domestic instinct and intelligence continued to blur in ways that demanded careful consideration of the path forward. The day's observations had transformed their approach to wildlife rehabilitation decisions. The stallion's story represented not just physical recovery, but demonstration of sophisticated social and emotional capabilities that demanded reconsideration of how humans approach wildlife recovery and release. Under the vast Montana sky, Pine Creek Wildlife Station stood at a crucial crossroads in wildlife medicine and animal consciousness studies. The stallion's journey had opened doors to understanding that would influence generations of conservation and rehabilitation efforts too. Come! Morning mist cloaked the Blackfoot Valley in ethereal silence as Pine Creek Wildlife Station prepared for a moment that would redefine wildlife rehabilitation. The black stallion stood alert in the rehabilitation paddock, its presence commanding attention as the first rays of dawn painted the Montana sky. Dr. Elena Martinez watched the horse's behavior with focused intensity, knowing today would mark a turning point in their extraordinary journey. The decision had crystallized through careful observation and deep understanding gained over months of rehabilitation. Traditional protocols held little relevance for an animal that had demonstrated such remarkable capacity for conscious choice and emotional intelligence. The stallion's future would be determined not by human presumption, but by its own demonstrated ability to choose. Sarah Mitchell arrived early to perform final health assessments. Her examination revealed a creature in peak physical condition, its recovery complete in every measurable way. Yet beyond the medical metrics lay something more profound. An animal whose intelligence and emotional sophistication had transformed understanding of wildlife consciousness. The morning brought Mike Henderson with confirmation that the wild herds maintained their presence in the valley. Satellite tracking showed the stallion's family group had established a pattern of movement that kept them within range of Pine Creek, as if maintaining their own vigil for their lost member. Their proximity added deeper meaning to the day's planned events. Emma Richardson's final behavioral observations documented patterns that would influence wildlife rehabilitation practices for generations. The stallions demonstrated ability to maintain meaningful connections across traditional boundaries of wild and domestic existence, suggested possibilities that challenged conventional wisdom about animal consciousness. Tom Walker prepared the outdoor arena for what would become a landmark moment in wildlife medicine. The rehabilitation team had designed an environment that would allow the stallion complete freedom of choice while ensuring safety for all involved. The setup respected both the horse's wild nature and its demonstrated capacity for reasoned decision-making. Jennifer Cooper positioned herself strategically, understanding that her documentation of these events would contribute to revolutionary changes in wildlife rehabilitation approaches. Her camera would capture moments that spoke to the profound capabilities of animals to make conscious choices about their own futures. Native American elders gathered to witness the day's events, their presence adding spiritual dimension to the scientific proceedings. They spoke of ancient teachings about horses as beings capable of moving between worlds, their wisdom gaining new relevance through the stallion's extraordinary demonstration of consciousness and choice. The morning progressed with careful preparation. As the rehabilitation team reviewed their unprecedented approach, instead of imposing human decisions about release or captivity, they would create conditions that allowed the stallion to demonstrate its own preferences through clear behavioral choices. Dr. Martinez focused intensely on documenting every aspect of the stallion's responses as the crucial moment approached. The horse's behavior suggested sophisticated understanding of the situation, its attention alternating between distant mountains and familiar human caregivers with conscious awareness that challenged conventional understanding of animal intelligence. The decision-making environment incorporated elements that acknowledged both the stallion's wild nature and its developed social bonds. The team had created a setting that would allow genuine choice while ensuring the safety and well-being of all involved. This innovative approach would influence wildlife rehabilitation protocols for years to come. As morning advanced toward crucial moments, the stallion's behavior revealed extraordinary awareness of the significance of these events. Its movements and responses suggested levels of understanding that transcended instinct, demonstrating conscious engagement with the choice it faced. Sarah's observations took on special significance as they monitored the stallion's physical and emotional responses. The horse maintained remarkable composure while displaying subtle signs of processing the situation. Behavior that suggested sophisticated cognitive capabilities previously unrecognized in wild animals. Emma's research notes detailed fascinating patterns in the stallion's decision-making process. The horse showed clear signs of weighing options and considering consequences, demonstrating levels of cognitive processing that would revolutionize understanding of animal intelligence. The rehabilitation team maintained careful distance as they observed the stallion's responses to increased freedom of movement. Each choice the horse made contributed to growing understanding of its capabilities for conscious decision-making and emotional processing. Jennifer's photographs captured moments of profound significance as the stallion explored its expanded environment. These images would later provide powerful testimony to animals' capacity for meaningful choice and emotional sophistication. Mid-afternoon brought a significant shift in the stallion's behavior as distant sounds carried across the valley. The horse's response to its wild family's presence demonstrated remarkable balance between acknowledging natural bonds while maintaining connections formed during rehabilitation. Dr. Martinez's documentation focused on the unprecedented nature of the stallion's decision-making process. Its behavior suggested sophisticated understanding of options and consequences, challenging fundamental assumptions about wildlife rehabilitation and release protocols. The day's events drew intense interest from wildlife conservation experts worldwide. The stallions demonstrated ability to engage meaningfully with both wild and domestic worlds, suggested possibilities for revolutionary approaches to wildlife rehabilitation and release decisions. As evening approached, the stallion's behavior revealed even deeper layers of consciousness and choice. It began displaying patterns that suggested not just awareness, but active engagement in determining its own future path. The rehabilitation facility maintained careful observation as darkness settled over the Montana landscape. Each moment added to growing understanding of animals' capacity for meaningful choice and emotional sophistication. Under the vast Montana sky, Pine Creek Wildlife Station witnessed moments that would transform wildlife medicine and conservation practices. The stallion's journey had opened doors to understanding that would influence generations of rehabilitation efforts. The evening brought profound realizations about animal consciousness and choice. In the peaceful atmosphere of approaching night, traditional boundaries between wild and domestic, instinct and intelligence continued to blur in ways that demanded new approaches to wildlife rehabilitation. The story of the Frozen Guardian had become more than a tale of survival and recovery. It represented breakthrough understanding of animal consciousness and capability, challenging humans to reconsider their relationships with the natural world. This extraordinary journey reminds us of the profound connections possible between all living beings. Up next, we have two more remarkable stories that will touch your heart and expand your understanding of the amazing bonds between humans and animals. Click to discover these incredible tales of courage, compassion, and connection.